Okay, are we starting? I know we went over on the last session, so.
I know, sorry.
Brother Hodge was I tried to get him out of here. But.
Long-winded,
Okay, this class is how to perfect your procrastination. So, here we go.
Are you better at procrastinating?
Well, we'll do that one later. See what I did there? Okay, so this is on how to get stuff done. Not sure if I'm the most qualified to teach this, but I'll give you a few ideas and maybe some stuff that doesn't work. There is a handout in there somewhere. It's kind of comic looking, and so if you wanted to find it, you can. And it has some of my main points on there. And the first one being the multitask myth. So, several months ago we were doing a big event, and I told my mom, she's here. I was trying to text somebody, and she was trying to talk to me, and I was like, hold on, I can't multitask very well. And she's like, oh yeah, you can. But I actually can't, and a lot of people think that I can because, like in an event like that, I'm just wearing all these different hats. I'm an actor on stage, but yet I'm directing it, writing scripts, and doing all kinds of stuff. But the thing is I think that multitasking is a myth. Now, the caveat is women might have the superpower. I don't know. They might have the superpower because they are built differently, I know. But really what most people call multitasking is task switching. And so both my wife and my daughter will drive me nuts sometimes when we'll be talking about something and we're like right in the middle of a conversation. And they'll be like, yeah, and then, oh, did you go to the, and I'm like, we're in a conversation here. Anybody ever experienced that? Okay. So, I think that's their version of multitasking. They're getting both of these things done at once. But the reason that I am kind of a little bit, and no offense to any ladies that can multitask, more power to you. But the reason I'm kind of against the idea of multitasking in general is because I think that usually what we are doing is we are task switching. And so what happens is if you are task switching on kind of a micro level, you might get everything done and it might not make much difference on how fast you get it done or how good a quality it is. But on a macro level in life, when you are trying to multitask and juggle all these things all at once, I think that it can make us ineffective. And so there's power and focus, and I meant to have a little bit more details on this, but I'll just tell you the general, and I might get some of this wrong, but the general idea that I understand is that lion tamers, and I don't know if they still do this or not, but my understanding is that lion tamers will use a stool. And I've seen this part before, but they'll have a whip and a stool. And so a lion is like way more powerful than the guy that's the tamer, right? But they use a stool, and the way that the stool is effective is they're holding it up by the seat, and it has those four legs. And the lion can't figure out what to focus on because there's four legs. And so the lion can't decide what to focus on, and this helps distract the lion. And I don't know the rest of the story, but they live somehow, the lion tamers do. So, but basically they are able to help the lion not focus, and they're distracted, and they can't focus their attack, I suppose. And so it's kind of like if you look at a mosaic or something, and you has anybody ever seen? I don't know. It's not a mosaic. What are those pictures? They got really popular several years ago, where it looks It maybe is really abstract, or maybe it's a coffee cup, but if you stare at it long enough and cross your eyes and stick out your tongue just right, then you see like an elephant, right? So I think that sometimes that's what our to-do list looks like. Is we can look at, Brother Booker, we've talked about some of the stuff, right? Like all the stuff we want to do. And so you can look at all these things that, man, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this for my children's ministry, I want to create this, and man, I look at what they're doing over there, I want to do that. And you get kind of like paralyzed because you don't know what to focus on. You're like the lion, and you're just like, there's all this stuff, and I gotta start somewhere. And then here's what I do is I like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start here. And I start, and then it's nagging me, and I'm like, but wait, so is this, maybe that's more important. And I start second guessing myself, right? And so there's power in focus. And so if you can eliminate distractions and decide, okay, this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm going to do. And then, I'm trying to see if I've got other notes on this, hopefully not. But you build momentum. And so if you choose like, okay, this is, okay, I'm going to just use this as an example. It's not really a plug, but I decided to start a podcast because Brother Booker and Brother Tyler Hodge guilted me into it, and Brother Jason Ashley. So I finally got it started. In fact, I'm going to tell this story really quick. Brother Booker was at our church, and we were doing last year. It was last year. And I said, he hadn't done a podcast in a long time. And I said, let's do one. Let's record one for you, for your podcast. I hadn't started one yet. So on that podcast recording, he made me set a date of when I was going to start mine. And I did start it, but it was about 3 weeks late, I think. But I decided, okay, I'll use this for an example, and again, I'm not trying to plug it, but it is Kidman Backstage. So I decided, okay, I need to start this. And I was like, man, I don't have the right kind of mics. I don't, like, what should I use? And where am I going to record it? I don't, should I have a video camera? I don't know. And I would like to have the mic separate so I can adjust volume. And then I kind of stepped back and took a look at myself and said, wait a second, dummy, you're just making excuses. And so my kids years ago, my wife had bought them some mics to do some kind of singing thing or something. So I was like, hey, can I borrow your mics? So I borrowed their mics, and they're actually kind of cool, but I borrowed their mics, and they had a USB cord that I had to find an adapter to plug into my Mac. And so I did that, and I recorded one, and then it took me forever to figure out how to get it set up on a podcast hosting platform and everything. But I finally did it and recorded one. Well, that's been about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, and we've put one out every single week since then. And now we got some better mics, and we have a place to record and all of that. And so, and now it's not, it's a little bit of work, but it's rolling. It kind of rolls, and there's a little bit of work that goes into it, but not very much. It's a maintenance thing. It's something that just kind of trucks along. But the effort in the beginning felt astronomical because I was trying to figure it all out. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to figure everything out. I was doing a little bit of research here and there, and need to buy this and buy that. And so my point is now I have the quote unquote momentum, and I can go on to that next task, that next thing that needs to be done. I can now put more focus on that. Okay, so if you can eliminate distractions and say, okay, this is the thing that I'm going to move forward on. And it doesn't mean that you're letting everything else just fall apart, but this is the thing that you're going to move forward on. All right, so busyness versus productivity. Oh, man. How many is busy? Probably everybody in here, right? Kids raise their hand. Busyness versus productivity. So I think that in this day and age, kids actually are. I mean, everybody's busy. We are all so busy. We've got so much going on. And, but we're not all productive at the same level. I would say that we're all busy at almost probably the same level. We are all, but we all have the same amount of hours, right? What is it, 168 in a week? So we all have the same amount of time, and we all fill it up. We all fill it up. We're like, oh, I'm so busy, and a lot of times we wear it like as a badge of honor, right? Like, you know, I think I'm probably busier than you are. What time did you get up today? Right? We wear it as a badge of honor, and so we're so busy. But I have tried, and it's been, I don't know, a couple years now that I've tried to change my own thinking to not how busy am I, because I'm guilty of that too, like wearing the badge of honor, but not how busy am I, but how productive am I? What am I producing that's the result? So there's, you know, examples of like Elon Musk, for example. He has the same amount of hours as we do, and the same amount of money as we do. But he is incredibly productive, right? So he accomplishes a lot in his time that he has. And so here's the way the method I use to change that, or a few methods that I use. And again, I don't feel that I'm most qualified to teach this class, but I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts. One thing is focus on what is it that moves the needle, so to speak. What are some things that you can focus on that are going to actually make a difference? Because we're all busy, and if you can kind of, you know, I don't know, periodically, monthly, I don't know, yearly, take a step back and say, okay, so I'm doing all of this stuff. But what is my, what's the big thing, the ROI, the return on investment? What is my return versus the investment that I'm putting in? So I'm putting in all of this time. Am I getting the return on that I should? So do I need to tweak it, or do I need to drop it? Is it something, or can I delegate it? Can somebody else do this? Can somebody else do this more effectively? And on that, this is not a leadership thing, but on that, if somebody, I have a hard time with this because we're all perfectionists, right? And so I have a hard time, but if somebody can do something, I don't know what the percentage is, John Maxwell talks about it, but I'll just throw something out there. If somebody can do something 70% as good as you, it's time to delegate it. And there's some people that lower that percentage, and I guess it depends on how critical the task is. If my 6-year-old drives the car home sometimes from church. We live right across the street, and he sits in my lap. But, and he's getting better at it, but he's only 6, so we're probably not going to let him do that by himself. So it depends on the critical, But if we're stacking up rocks, I might let him do that. We could delegate that to the 6-year-old. Okay, so that's one thing is what is the thing that's going to move the needle? What is the thing that's going to make the most impact that I'm trying to make, that I want to make? And then the other thing is there's what's called an execution gap. And so we are all busy, we have all these things, and there is no shortage of information these days. I mentioned in another session, I read a massive amount of books. I don't know, I haven't really sat down to figure out how many per year. I'm reading 5 right now. And so I read a lot. And then there's the internet, and there's YouTube videos, not just the silly cat ones, but like educational ones. There is no shortage of information. What there's a shortage of is execution. There's the execution gap. And so instead, and I can be guilty of this because I read so much, I'm like, oh man, this is good stuff. I'll come back to this. But instead of just saying, okay, what is the next best thing, or what is the best way that I could go about this, dive in with both feet, just dive in and do it instead of having that execution gap. And one of the ways to do this is with self-imposed deadlines. And so if you can, there's a book, the 12-week year, if you want to write it down, the 12-week year. And what they talk about is they basically take the 12 months and they bring it down to quarters, so it's, instead of annual planning, that's the whole concept. They talk about the 12-week year. So what you would do in a year, you do it in 12 weeks instead of 12 months. And so that idea, but if you can create self-imposed deadlines where it shortens the time that you have available to get this done. And I'm trying this on a couple of projects, and something that I kind of have learned from my pastor is to make it almost unreasonable. So sometimes when we talk, we have a pretty close relationship, and we talk about something, and I'll say, so what's the timeline on this? And I'm thinking, maybe, okay, we're going to do this in a couple months. And he's like, well, I don't know, we probably can't do it this Sunday, but so he has taught me, to narrow that timeline down, and it's more effective to get stuff done. So I already mentioned this, but eliminate what you can, and then block out time for busyness and for productivity. And what I mean by, there's actually a method of time management called time blocking, and I'm not just talking about that. It's very good. I use that, but it's not just task list versus time blocking or whatever. And if you don't know what that is, you can Google it. There's some good material on time blocking. But block out time that is for busyness, because you do still have to get the busyness stuff done, right? You can't just say like, okay, I am just going to be mission driven, and all I am going to do is work on my podcast. That's all I'm going to do, and it's going to be awesome. You can't do that. You have a lot of it. That's why we're so busy, right? You have all these other tasks that you have to do. So block out time for busyness. Okay, I'm going to get all these things done. I'm going to get all these things that I want to do. I'm sorry. I don't want to forget something here. And so, and then here's the important part though, is block out time for productivity. Block out time for those main tasks that need to be done. And so, one of the things that I learned, I don't know, long time ago, I was kind of a weird teenager. I was 12 years old, and I think it was 12, and I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I recommend, if you're going to read that, to read the teen one. There was no teen one when I read it, but that book changed my life. Had a really big impact on me when I was a teenager, or I was 12 years old. And one of the things I learned from that has stuck with me to this day is you can take just, let's say you take, 15 minutes. It usually doesn't even take that long. But you got all this stuff to do, and I'm busy just like everybody else. And you feel like, you know what, I don't got time to 15 minutes. Let's go. I need to start. We got to start chopping this tree down. But if you could take 15 minutes and say, okay, today, what am I going to, what's the goal here today? Whether it's a task list or just some main block items, what am I doing today? Just take 15 minutes. That 15 minutes will probably save you a couple hours. It helps you focus, especially if you trust it. If you could trust it, and things happen throughout the day, and schedules get blown apart. I understand that. I work for a living too. But if you can have that guide, that compass that you can come back to, and so it's kind of like on a micro level. This conference we're at here. I get done with the session. I look at the syllabus. Oh, okay, I'm supposed to be in the sanctuary. And and so I'm not having to really think about it. I'm in the session, I can enjoy the speaking. Brother Caleb Dillon did awesome. I don't know if he's in here. I can enjoy the session, And then when it's time, I look, okay, this is where I'm going. Now I know that's a really simplistic way to look at it in this really micro level. But the thing is if you can do that, if you take the 15 minutes, and ideally in the morning, right? 15 minutes in the morning and say, okay, here's some things that's got to be done. And this works backwards, and I don't want to get all bogged down into this, but this does work backwards to this week. What are some big things I want to do this month? What are some big, this year? It works backwards from there. But if you can take that 15 minutes. And then here's another thing that I do is I'm going to recommend another book. I highly recommend this book. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's an incredible book, and it talks about habits mostly, but what he talks about is, has anybody ever seen the example of, like, if somebody had started out with a penny and doubled the amount every day? So it's like, I don't have all of it, and it works better on a screen, but if you have a penny, then it's 2 pennies, then it's 4 pennies, then it's 8 pennies, and so on. And then next to the guy that gets $1 million right up front or something. Anyway, it's pretty crazy because there's like just minuscule difference, and you're like, man, that guy's dumb to take that deal instead of the $1 million. And then by it's like day 27, 26 or something, there's still like he's getting some money, but then it just jumps and it's huge. And I wish I should have wrote it down, but it's just astronomical. So that's kind of the example of the compound effect. The compound effect is when you do something and it's so small, it almost seems like you're just not doing anything. But you do it over and over and over and over again, and eventually it makes a big, huge difference. And so one of the things that I have started doing since I read that book, actually, a few years ago, is I have tried to list my compound tasks that can take advantage of the compound effect. And so there's all these tasks that I got to do, right, on a weekly basis or whatever. But then there's some tasks, like, I'll just use this as an example. If you're trying to write a book, for example. If you're trying to write a book, that's a big job, and maybe you get inspired today. Oh man, and you write, 10 pages today. Like, whew. But then if you don't write any more pages for another 6 months, you didn't do anything. You didn't even put a dent in it. Versus the guy that's, also wants to write a book, and he writes 1 page today, and 1 page tomorrow, and 1 page the next day, because he blocks out the time to do it. And he's doing that every day. Then pretty soon he's got a book. And so I try to take the time to list compound, I call them compound tasks, just because in my head I know what it means. But tasks that will take advantage of that compound effect. Something that I can do small every single day, or on some kind of scheduled basis, that I know that by the time I reach X point, maybe it's a year, whatever it is, that it will make a huge difference. Okay, on the handout, here we are on number 3, ready to ship. Okay, so this is also something I kind of get from my pastor, I guess, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it ready to go. Get it ready to ship. And so, there's a saying, I'll use the book analogy again. It's like, well, how come you haven't written anything? Oh, I got writer's block. Well, there's actually no such thing as writer's block. You just have to force it. You have to force yourself and push through it and just write. And so here's what you need to look at if you're saying, okay, I can't get it done, is look back at the last 2 weeks, last 2 months, and look at all of your bad writing. Most of us can't do that because we don't have it. We don't have any bad writing. We can't write the book because we didn't write it. We just had quote-unquote writer's block. And so the point with that is make the effort and fail again. If you do that, you'll have a breakthrough, and you'll make it happen. And so, and then get it ready to ship. Just get it ready to go. And so that's like creating the self-imposed deadlines. Anybody ever heard of Parkinson's law? This is not the disease. Parkinson's law? No? Okay. Parkinson's law, I don't have the definition in front of me, but Parkinson's law says basically that a task will take whatever time it has.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if I need to write a script for Sunday school, and this is totally a real example. If I need to write a script for Sunday school, I can write one, especially because of all the material that we have done. I can write one probably in an hour. I can write about an hour's script for Sunday school. But does that mean that I have one a week ahead of time?
Right.
And so, because I have a week to do it, Parkinson's law says it fills up that time. And the thing is even, and that's an example of just procrastinating, but even when you are like, you dabble in it a little bit, have you ever had a big task to do and you're thinking about it a bunch, like I gotta get this done, or I gotta figure out how to do this, and you haven't done anything yet, but you feel like you've been working on it for a week because you've been thinking about it. It's just, you've been thinking about it. And granted, I know that there's some level of like, okay, I need to think about this, figure it out. But a lot of times we're thinking about this and trying to figure it out and, worrying about it, stressing about it. And it's like, man, why are you so tired? Oh, well, there's this, I gotta get this event put together and everything. Oh, really? What'd you do? Did you meet with somebody or something? No, but I'm tired. And so I think that that's an element of that Parkinson's law. It fills up that time, and you haven't done anything. Okay, I'm going to go to what time am I supposed to go to? Sorry, I always ask this in my sessions. What time? 3:40. Oh wow, I'm killing it. We're going to get done early. Okay, the best productive system. The absolute best productive system is, of course, the one that works for you. Everybody can groan. Oh, they're hoping to find the Holy Grail. I am going to give some suggestions, but I'm going to talk about it just for a second. So, the best productive system, meaning like the best planner, the best app, the best calendar, the best notebook. I got a really cool notebook here. I got this big, huge notebook that I use. I'm a kind of an electronics guy, but I do carry this around with me. So, the best app is the one that works for you. And now, I say that, but I think there is a balance. I think that maybe something that works for you that's and is not effective, then maybe you need to grow into something. But here's the biggest thing is you choose something that doesn't have a huge learning curve. You don't want, or if there's something that you see, I'll give you an example. I use for my work, and then also for a project we're doing here with some of the Sunday school people, I use something called Microsoft Project. And so it's like Excel on steroids kind of, and it's a planning software for project management. And so way back, I saw it, and I saw that it was super effective. If anybody's familiar with it, it's really awesome. There's also Primavera 6. Anyway, it's a really effective program, but it's a huge learning curve. I mean, there's a lot to figure out unless you're going to use a template or something. And so I continued to use what I knew, Excel formulas or just calendar apps or whatever, even for work. I continued to use that, but I took classes and I learned how to use Microsoft Project so that I can use that now. And so that's something that you can do if there's something you see that's like, okay, that seems really effective, but I don't have a clue how to use it. Well, don't get all bogged down in it, but just start learning it and continue to use your notepad. Just continue to use that until you learn how to. Okay, and then, okay, now I think that it depends on your, it does depend on your life, and everybody's situation is different, but I think that the less compartmentalized you are, the better. And here's what I mean by that, is we all have multiple roles that we play, right? Brother Todd, you're a pastor, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a Sunday school guy, and then I'm sure that's all you do is those things I just listed, but that's enough. And so we all have multiple roles, and I know that there is a balance to this. Like I have a job that keeps me very busy when I'm at my job time, but the less you can compartmentalize, I think the better. So if you can have a flow with your calendar and your apps and all of that, where now if you have a solid work time and then I'm done, now I can move on to personal and church stuff and whatever, relationship stuff, that's fine. But the less you can compartmentalize, instead of saying like, I'm youth leader at my church, I'm a youth leader, and so here's my youth leader app and calendar and lists and everything that I got done, but I'm also the Sunday school director, and so over here I got my apps and everything, and I also direct our events, and so over here I got my lists and stuff. So if instead of doing that, the less you can compartmentalize that, and the more that it all can flow, so that if I'm looking at my youth calendar, I can say, well, I have a family event here, so this event will work better here, and so on. So I think that the more that you can make everything flow together, the better, to a certain extent. Okay, with the balance. Okay, so here is some options if you want to write some of these down, and then if you want to, I am going to do some questions and answers, or at least questions. We'll see if I can answer. We'll do some questions and answers here in a minute, but I do have a list of these are things that I have used. And so Franklin Covey planner, that's what I started with way back when I was younger. My dad got me started on that. Franklin Covey, and this was a paper option, so these first ones are paper, if you're a paper person. If you prefer paper because you're a paper person. So Franklin Covey is a good planner, and Franklin Covey, the way it kind of operates, I'm not going to give a summary on all of these, but I just remember this one well, is it kind of operates off the idea of what is at the macro level, what is important to you, what is your life mission, your life goals, breaking that down to, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, today. And so that's kind of how that works. Panda planner, and I don't remember a lot of the details on this one, but I have it in my list because I have used it. I think it's kind of a simple, has anybody ever used the Panda planner? No? Okay. And then, I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, mochi things, M-O-C-H-I, mochi things. So it's kind of a cool notebook type planner. All right, and then digital options. This is kind of where I live. Even at work, I'm known as the non-paper guy. I hate having papers everywhere. Okay, Todoist. There is no L. Todoist. It's an app, and I'm assuming it works this way. I don't have an Android device, but it works on PC, so I'm sure it works on Android. But I have it on my phone. I have an iPhone, and so I use Todoist, and then it's on my Mac, and then I use a PC for work. It's on my PC, and it all syncs. So if I write like something on my phone right now, it'll be right there. So that's really cool because it just syncs across everything. And it's simple. That's what I like about it too, is it's very simple and Todoist. So I recommend that one. That's good. Trello is really good, especially for collaborating. Trello is great for collaborating. Now they did just change their policy just a couple weeks ago, where the free version is maxed out at 10 users. And it makes me mad because I've been using it for years. But it's a very good. It's online and it's pretty intuitive. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's all drag and drop. And how it works is you have boards, and you can have how many other boards you want. And so boards to me looks like I would have a youth board. I just talked about not compartmentalizing, but you kind of have to with it. I have a youth board, a Sunday school board, curriculum project board, and so I have all these boards, and then in the boards you have lists, and these lists can be anything you want, and then in the lists are cards, and so that's kind of the hierarchy of how Trello works. And so you have the board that's like a youth board, and then on my youth board the very first list is upcoming events, and then each event has a card. And so when you go to this last Friday, we just had an event, it's called Thrive. You click on that Thrive, it opens up, and it shows who's the staff on there, has a checklist to do attendance for the youth, and maybe details on what supplies are needed and that kind of thing. And then you go over and there's another list that's like just notes, another list of past events. And you can, when that event gets over, so like last night's Thrive gets over, you can just take it, you can do it on your phone or on your computer. You just drag that over to past events and drop it, and it's there now. And it's instantaneous. So if we were sharing it, you would see it as I'm doing it. So it's really great for collaborating. At our church, we use it for our youth ministry, and then we use it for several things, but we use it for our events as a big thing that we use it for. Okay, G-Tasks. This is by Google, and so it's really good. You could probably talk to your brother Bradshaw about that one, I'm guessing. Do you use G-Tasks? Oh, you don't? He's a Google guy. I thought you used G-Tasks. All right, and then minima list, like minimal list, but there's only one L, so minimal list. And that's another one it's just easy and simple, no learning curve. And then, so I don't use this a whole lot, but I watched a YouTube video on this guy that turned Apple reminders on its ear. I mean, he did all kinds of cool stuff. So Apple reminders, I don't use it a whole lot, but I put it in the list. And then this one costs, and it's more of for like churches, but Planning Center. It's called Planning Center Online. And so Planning Center is a pretty robust program. We use it at our church primarily for scheduling all of our music teams. We use it for events. Our Sunday school staff, you can log everybody in there and send out notices. It does a lot, and there's different apps within Planning Center. There's people, there's services, where you plan your services out, and you can put your song list in there. You can put audio files in there. You can put lead sheets or sheet music in there. It's really cool. But it does cost, and that's more of it's a subscription is what it is. And that's not something I use like personally. I use it, but it's for the church specifically. Okay, I think that's all I got there. And so we have 5 minutes left. All right, questions? Any burning questions? Yes?
You being a busy person, how do you make time to read?
Okay, the question for our online audience is, me as a busy person, how do I make time to read? So one thing that makes it easier is I enjoy it. And so I fit it in. Like, I'm going to be on a plane here in a few minutes. I'm going to read. Actually, I got to finish something up, but I'll probably read after that. So I fit it in everywhere. Typically, when I'm eating, I'll read, and then like when I go to bed, I'll read. When I'm driving, no, not. And I do use audio books some for when I'm driving, but I mostly read. I did have a large library of books, but I switched to digital, and so on my phone I have, I don't know, 300 books or something. So, yeah. But yeah, that's how I kind of fit it in. And I think I read fast. I haven't tested it, but I think I read kind of fast, so that probably helps. Questions? Other questions? Comments? Yeah.
One thing alongside that is if we set a curfew for our like a self-imposed curfew for our phones,
Yeah.
then chances are like we're gonna find time to do the reading,
Yes.
the things that we don't have time to do.
Yes.
Really, it's like after 8 o'clock at night, after 9 o'clock, if we're home.
Right.
What are we doing really?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we have families, they like to see us sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But if the kids are in bed or whatever, like a lot of times you'll find that when you don't allow yourself to be taken by your device,
Yeah, that's good.
you're gonna have time to do those other things.
Yeah.
My wife and I were actually even saying like we're having a no phone in our bedroom.
Oh, that's
The
good.
bedroom is that connecting place or that disconnecting place
Yes.
from everything else.
Yes.
You know.
That's good. Yeah, now I do read on my phone.
Oh, sure.
But you know, there's Kindles or whatever. But the thing is I don't know why. I don't think it's because I'm like cool necessarily, but for some reason I can not be distracted by my phone. So like when I take on Saturdays often I will take my 6-year-old son and we'll go to Starbucks. And we'll go sit down at the table. We won't get it to go. We'll go sit down at the table. He'll get a donut or whatever, and I'll get a coffee. And so we'll sit there for a few minutes. And so I rarely ever take my phone out of my pocket on purpose because I'm there with him and I'm spending time with him. And so, you know, and I have a watch, so if I get a text or even a call, I can see, okay, is this something I need to answer? If it's a text message, I'm only going to be there 15, 20 minutes. I'll wait. And so, so there's things like that, and the other thing is, like when I get up in the morning, I do not grab my phone. Well, I grab my phone to turn my alarm off, but I do not look at anything until I get some of my certain morning routine done. I don't look at my phone. I certainly don't look at emails, and so I kind of have a whole routine. So I will have been up typically for about 2 hours before I look at my phone. And I don't respond to anything, and usually, I mean, if it's my pastor, I will, but usually I don't look at it, so. Okay, anything else? It's 3:39. All right. I'm not the most qualified to teach this class, but I hope you got something out of it, so hopefully it was helpful.
What was that law? I wrote it down. It was the
Parkinson's law.
so